This is a new, cool, like superhero Victorian show, I want to say. And the best part about HBO Max is right after the episode, they do breakdowns. And I love the breakdowns because they talk about VFX or acting choices or writing choices. And on the third episode, it was so good because it was VFX. And me and John love VFX. And it was a really cool sequence. Really unique because you've never really watched a floating human fight in the water before. So it was just so fun to see the dynamics and the thought process. And now we're going to break it down. You ready for this, John?
Hey everyone, welcome back to AsArt with Nick and John. We love doing visual effects reviews, so we're going to dig in here. We also do a lot of other things. We'll do episode reviews, season reviews. We'll talk about deepfakes, animated versus live action comparisons, a lot of fun stuff. So check out AsArt.space for the audio and video links to different type of content that we release. We also release a podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. So it's funny, Nick, when I was watching this, it did remind me, and this is way out of left field, but it's something we plan on covering on this channel at some point. So on Disney Plus, they just added in these old made-for-TV Ewok movies. And the first one, I think it's called Caravan of Courage or something like that. They have a total stand-in Luke Skywalker type looking guy, and they have his sister and things like that. But there's a scene in that where this guy is under the water,
sister, right?
Yeah, exactly. But he's under the water and he's trying to break up through the top, and it's kind of has that same view of when she's stuck under the water and she's trying to get up for air and things like that. And so I don't know why, but it kind of reminded me of that. Maybe it's because those just were released on Disney Plus, and Nick and I had talked about actually covering those. So it's funny that I had that kind of throwback in there.
Yeah, and what's funny, most of the time that stuff happens, right? Like anytime you get an action sequence like this, it's always with ice, I feel like, right? Because it's like one of those things where they got to like find a way through to punch through. I think The Hobbit did it. At the end, there's like a whole ice sequence where they're underwater or the bad dude's underwater. But I feel like it's always like an ice thing. And it was really cool to just see it on water. And man, they really went in depth. I really loved just the idea of, so I guess his powers is nothing of his body can get underwater, right? And I think it's so funny because like in the first episode, they mention you can't get this guy in a bath.
Pardon the stench. You cannot get that man into a bath.
And at first you're like, okay, like is he just get really large? Like you don't realize
stinky,
but you realize now because like he repels water basically. And it was just so much fun to see the way like the water bounced when he was walking and stuff like that. Really cool. And I loved how they went on trampolines and they put like foam mattresses in the water to see like the way the physics would move and stuff like that. And what a beautiful final really cool product. Oh my god.
Yeah, a really cool journey to their final solutions. Like Nick was saying, they're like, all right, let's look at insects that are so light that they can't actually walk in the water. What if you use liquids that if you stand still, you do sink, but if you're walking or moving fast enough, you don't sink? And they look at all these things. And then, of course, like Nick was saying, I thought what they really took a lot of inspiration from is what if you put foam mats on water and you have a little bit of water on the surface? What does that look like as far as the splashing, but also the water not completely giving way? And then, of course, you get into the full-on particle simulations they did in the software. It just always looks so cool. When they just rendered out in gray with the lighting, it looks so beautiful. But all those put together gave you that effect. And they're right. You do have a lot. I mean, even Bruce Almighty, where he's walking on water. But that's, they have a platform just under the water. Whereas here, it was a shot-to-shot thing. When he was actually standing by the water and you have the camera just barely under the water, they actually had built out a small deck, just like they were saying, like 4 millimeters below. But it was all covered in black. So when they tried to composite with other elements, it didn't really show up. Then they have other shots where they actually had him suspended by wires. So when he walked, you'd actually see the full movement of the water. And then they layered that in with actual CG effects as well. It's just beautiful work and cool to see shot by shot how they accomplished it.
Yeah. And the composite worked. And you can tell like they made the whole, like, what would be the correct, like they colorized it. So it had like a green tint to the final product as it is, and it probably really helped them out because there was water surrounded by green panels, so it's going to reflect a lot of green anyway, so it probably helped to leave some of the green in the final edit and comp and stuff like that to like kind of just make everything fit perfectly. And gosh, oh man, even the water shots too just look so good. Like it's how well the keys worked and the timing and the whole like choreograph of the fight was so cool. Like picking her up, but he's like on top of the water, and then the end choking scene. Oh man, it's just so cool. The idea of like someone floating and being choked on water. That's so like against physics, but it's so cool.
And it's fun because it worked exactly what Nick was talking about in another episode we did recently on Falcon and Winter Soldier, how the effects serve the story. And the effects are integral to the story because this sequence is really about the main heroine we have, her troubleshooting. How do I get this guy when he's completely at the advantage here? And what she kind of figured out is like, all right, if he literally cannot go below the water surface, then I can use that to my advantage as far as getting around him. And these effects serve that perfectly. So it's not just effects for fun. It's not just effects for the sake of effects, but it's like her troubleshooting her situation and coming up with a solution, which is really, really cool. That's how effects work ideally is done.
Yeah. And they do such a good job on all HBO Max shows. I feel like the quality of VFX, like we really love His Dark Materials. And what's so cool, His Dark Materials, the reason why we love is because how well the demons fit into the world. We're just like, whoa, this looks amazing. Like you could even like look at the animation and stuff. And with this, it's completely different. It's like superhero VFX, right? Like they have shots with like a giant girl in the background, and they have, you know, like the fireball girl, which I liked more than the Mortal Kombat fire.
Yes. Yeah. If you guys watch that episode, Nick was saying, he's like, man, when you're molding fire and it looks weird, I go, yeah, it's because we're not used to seeing molded fire. But then episode 1 of this, you see the girl with the fire. I'm like, oh no, that looks perfectly fine. So, but again, HBO has probably a much higher budget than this Mortal Kombat 2021 movie had. So it's like, you kind of have to keep thinking, okay, what's the budget they're working for? What was the director asking for? You know, that's a big part of it as well. If you don't want it to look absolutely what we would kind of see in our mind's eye, even if it's just fantasy and we want to be able to do it in real life, it's like, okay, you know, how are you going to approach that?
Yeah, no, I so happy. I think they're doing a great job overall with the show when it comes to the VFX and the gore. I think the gore is just right with the show too. It's like a good balance with there's like spoilers alert. There's like a whole like machine gun guy ability, and it's just like it comes off so good. Like everything comes off really good in the show, and I'm super excited.
And we were talking about in the Falcon and Winter Soldier visual effects breakdowns how we don't know for sure, but yeah, the effects might not be Avengers Endgame for every shot, but the quality is level. And the same thing goes for the subject matter. So this is a more fantastical show than you get. Even you're getting in His Dark Materials really fantastical things as far as these creatures, these demons talking and moving around. They're trying to ground it in this reality where there's not a whole lot of crazy magic you see, whereas this one's all about these special, you know, the touch that have these crazy skills. So you're seeing more, I guess, glowy fantasy type stuff, I guess, to an extent. It feels more surreal because that's the look they're going for. And
I guess you're right. Yeah.
So you get certain sequences like that water fight that if a guy couldn't be, you know, couldn't be absorbed into water or anything, or if he couldn't go into water, that played out actually how you would expect that. We're not used to that because we don't have physics like that, but that's what you would kind of expect. And they look to real life to have that served.
Yeah. And good job to the actress. Oh, what's her name? I think it's like Laura Donnelly or something. But she did such a good job. Like, talk about like being underwater for that long and doing the shots and like holding your breath upside down. There was even like she was talking how the water just wants to go into your nose and like your lungs and everything.
When I was watching the show, that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, oh god, I bet she's getting so much water up her nose. I just call. I don't want to be a superhero. You know, kill me.
Kill me.
I hate that feeling. Oh man.
I think she's been doing a good job with the action sequences too. You can tell she's like the main action character. She like. She fights and she punches and she does like all the kicks, and she's smart too, which is really cool. It's fun to see like when someone uses their knowledge to beat their opponent. It's not just always brute strength or whatever like to get by. It's like your wits that wins the battle, which is really
cool.
And
I'm totally getting this weird vibe. There's this movie I hadn't seen until maybe a year or two ago. Kate, my wife, introduced me. It's like Mrs. Peregrine School for Gifted Children.
Oh,
she's like kind of
you're probably Mary just Poppins. Thinking that too because she looks like
she looks like that.
Eva Green. I think that's the actress.
Oh, was that Eva Green? Yeah, okay, it was Eva Green. But yeah, I'm totally getting this vibe. It was like, this is Gifted Children, I guess.
It's Gifted Children, but it's also like X-Men meets like Victorian age.
Yes. Which as soon as Nick told me about the show, he's like, you know, Victorian super, I'm in. And then I told my wife about it. She's like, as soon as I got to Victorian era, I'm in. It's like,
but we're almost in with anything HBO Max. Let's be real at this point.
Yeah. They just have been putting out consistently very good shows. I would say we're not biased, but we kind of are. We love the content they're putting out, but at the same time, we're enjoying all the other content the other platforms are putting out as well. It's just HBO has a very consistent high bar of quality, but very different types of shows, even if they're all visual effects types. So really, really fun stuff. All right, guys. So if you have not found this series and you found it through us, let us know, because we'd love to be the bringer of good series. But if you've already found it and you're just finding this visual effects breakdown, let us know as well. We'd love to know how you found it, what you were looking for. And if there's other things you'd like to hear about on the show as well that we can research, that'd be super fun as well. Check out AsArt. That's basically the audio and video links. We do a lot of different types of content, from audio podcast to all kinds of different breakdowns and reviews and things like that. We'll see you on the next AsArt.